So here we go, I'm making my first video blog, and I initially was going to do just regular blogging, and a friend of mine said to me, you know, you've got a wonderful story, why don't you tell it? And initially I thought, who's going to listen to me? What have I got to say? You know, and I do these morning meditations, and something said to me, tell your story. And I think it's poignant because as I speak to my sisters, as I speak to other black women, one of the things that comes up is the fact that we need healing. And I think that when you look at us today, the black woman has been under attack. She's been under attack for centuries, in the home, in the workplace, in society. She's just been called out. Sometimes it's justified, sometimes it's not. And we don't know the stories, and I think what's happened is we've evolved these coping strategies, and that's where you get the stereotypes from. But the underlying cause is the fact that a lot of us, we need healing, you know, we need healing. And I don't know if anyone's going to be able to relate to what I'm saying. Maybe you might, maybe you're not. But I'm going to do this anyway because I see a lot of women, I have a lot of female friends, acquaintances who struggle. They struggle with who they are. You know, they struggle with loving themselves. And I've done that. I've struggled with loving myself. I fundamentally never ever felt that I was good enough. I never felt that I was pretty enough. You know, my complexion wasn't light enough. I wasn't dark enough. I didn't have big bust. I didn't have a big bum. You know, I wasn't like the next girl. I had a lisp. I was all these things, and I just used to, you know, compare myself with everybody else, and that led me to being really competitive. I was competitive at work. I was just always had to be the best, always had to outshine everyone. You know, I was a drama queen. I lived and loved the drama. But that was primarily because the underlying issue that I had was I never felt good enough about myself. I know where that came from now. At the time, I didn't. You know, my mum, I love my mum to bits, and I know that she had a hard life, and she transferred that to me. And I probably indirectly transferred that to my son. And, you know, some of the things that my mum would say is, why can't you be like Sandra? You can't walk in a Sandra shoes. You're walkless, you're coming just like your papa. And I grew up comparing myself to Sandra and thinking I'm going to be whatless like my dad. And my dad isn't whatless. It was what my mum said at the time, because of where she was, because she was hurting, because she needed healing. You know, it was funny because when no adults were around, I shot Sandra a box, you know, and that's how I was. That's how I grew up. You know, if I felt that I couldn't live up to that standard, sister was going to get it one way or another. And it was really destructive. You know, I was one of those girls that you hated at work because I thought I was better than everybody else. You know, and I'd show you I was better than you. And God forbid if anyone criticised me, damn. You know, I was the whole angry black woman. And that's where a lot of our stereotypes come from. You know, we've been called names, we've been called ugly, we've been called bitch, hoe, slut, slag, ratchet, hood rat, you know, man beast. We've been called so many names. You know, the amount of negatives sometimes outweighs the positive. And yeah, we get called queen now, we get called empress. But at the same time, underneath all of that is still this vulnerable little child. You know, I realised that as an adult, I was still thinking, my thought process was still that of a young child. And growing up, I came from a really dysfunctional family. My dad he frequented Her Majesty's Pleasure on more than one occasion, and my mum, she left me a lot. She left me with a lot of different people. She left me some with family members, some with people I didn't know. And what happened when I was left with all these people is that I was subjected to abuse. Sometimes it was verbal, sometimes it was physical, and more often than not it was sexual abuse. So I kind of felt like I was only ever good for one thing. My parents didn't want me because they were never there. I was never protected. And I coped. I developed coping strategies. And those coping strategies formed how I behaved throughout life. So one of those things that I used to like to do was, things got tough, pick up and leave. I never laid down any foundation. I never established any roots. I didn't like commitment because it wasn't something that I was used to. So coupled with the fact that I had abandonment issues, rejection issues, no stability, and this deep sense of never being good enough, I went through life making these terrible decisions. And these were in every facet of my life: relationships, careers, where I lived, what I did, the people I hung around, the way I behaved. Everything was centered on the fact that Sarah Myers didn't feel good about Sarah Myers. She didn't like Sarah Myers. Sarah Myers always wanted to be somebody else. She never wanted to be her unapologetically. She never wanted to be who she was created to be. And for the last 2 years, I've been on like this kind of journey where I have transformed. I have gone to the core of my being, and I have looked at my issues and I have addressed them. And I can say today, I am good enough. I like who I am. I love who I am. And I can take responsibility for my reactions in life. It wasn't an easy journey. It wasn't something that just happened overnight. I didn't just wake up and change. I went through a real crappy, horrible time. But I promised myself that when I got to 40, I wasn't going to be a 40-year-old thinking like a 5-year-old. You know, I was going to change inside. And it wasn't easy, but I'm glad that I did it, because now I know that those coping strategies that I had that were survival, they got me through life. You know, they got me through life. They got me to that place where I could look in the mirror and say, I love me. So these blogs are primarily my confessions of my drama and the reasons why I was there and how I got out. And so if you enjoy them, please do tune in. If you want to give me feedback, you can hit me up on Facebook or Twitter. I am Sarah Myers on Facebook. I am Sarah Amanda Myers on Twitter. Or you can leave a comment on my YouTube page. That would be really nice. If you want to criticise, that's okay. The skin's kind of thick now. But yeah, we're in this together. It's a sisterhood. And I am doing this because I have a duty to. And if you have one of the issues that I had, then we're in it together and we can do this. So thank you for listening to Confessions of a Drama Queen, and I will see you in the next blog. Bye.